Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. We're trying out a new stream tonight. I really do hope it works. I'm not really too sure. Hopefully, I'll be able to see comments. This is a whole new experiment, so we will see what happens. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you? I'm glad. Hey, Em. Okay, good. I see comments. So tonight we're going to be working on with this Sweet as a Peach stamp set and the matching dies. I don't know if you saw my um, card that I did in the beginning, just having a little fun. I created this little peach and then pretended to cut it in half and put a pit in the center of it. I'll probably go live. Great. I'm glad you're doing good, Elizabeth. Um, I'll probably do a video how I created that pit because I'm not doing it on any of my cards tonight. And then I do have a little gift box that I created for um, the little jars. Unfortunately, right now the jars are back ordered, but if you do place an order, oh, my little ribbon fell off. If you do place an order of $35 or more, I will send you these make and takes for free, and I will include the jar. Like I said, they just are not available at the moment, but I will keep track and I will include the jar for the make and takes. Just a quick little reminder. Oh, I can't. I did try to make it. I will work up closer up top, okay? Um, I just don't know how to make it smaller yet. Tonight's the last night that you can subscribe to the Paper Pumpkin. It's the expressions in color, so keep that in mind. And it is also the last day that you can subscribe to my Days to Remember craft box. It will include the 12, all the projects, so you could create these 12 calendars. It will include the stamp set. It will include all the embellishments that you need, plus the little clips, and it will also include everything to make this little box to hold them in and then display the month on the back. So if you're interested, you can head over to my blog, galfridaystamping.net. You'll see the post and you can register because tonight's the last night. So we will start with our card. I think I'll start with this one. Um, I did end up using a few different die sets. This one uses the scalloped contours for the Calypso coral frame. And then I also use the scallop for the inside. So I'm using Petal Pink and, like I said, Calypso coral. And I'm using the Europeach DSP, and I'm using the stripe side. Believe it or not, there's a blue side too. I'm gonna have to try it in blue because I think it would look really pretty. Nice contrast to the peaches and the blue. So let's get all our pieces together here. I did do some things in advance, so I wouldn't have to keep you like I did last time. Just checking to make sure everything is here. I put everything in this little bin so I could keep track. And it looks like I have to cut one more piece. Always. Isn't that always the way? Every night, every Thursday, I do the same exact thing. But let me do this really quick. Ah, I just didn't pick it up off my table. There it is. Okay, so we have the basic card base, and it's 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm going to score it at 4 1/4. I didn't do this one ahead of time. I did do the other one though. So we're just going to fold this in half. And I should tell you that this morning when I was making these cards, I had such a hard time trying to keep everything straight. My lines were crooked. Everything was going wrong. That's why I had a little fun with the peach and the peach pit. I figured I had to do something funny to keep my spirits up because I was having such a hard time. Okay, so I am just going to take another piece of petal peach, and this is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and this one I'm just going to glue down to the front of the card. I will have a PDF in Gal Friday Stamping Group tomorrow. It probably won't be until early afternoon because if it's not raining, I really must get outside and take care of my front garden. We've had so much rain. Hey, Debbie. Yes, I love the peach paper too. And I believe, I thought at first it was not available, but it's some of the product that's not. Hello, Montreal. Thank you for sharing. Hi, Judy. Hey, Beverly. Hi, Margaret. How are you? Thanks, Judy. I love making sure that the inside is taken care of too. I always think we spend so much time working on the front of our card that we often forget about the inside. So I always like to add a little something on the inside. So for the next layer, I have the Calypso Coral, 5 1/4 by 4, and this I'm going to pop up onto the front of the card. And then I have a piece of DSP that I'm just going to adhere down. And this is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. So you'll notice that all my layers are just 1/8 of an inch difference. And if you lay your layers down and you have an equal amount on these three sides, then it's pretty likely that the fourth side is going to be perfect. And that does not look too bad. And if you need to move it, the glue does have a little extra wiggle room. That's why I like using the glue, to make sure I just have that extra little wiggle room in case I happen to be off on my measurement or off because I can't create straight lines. So we're just going to pop this up and add it to the front of the card. I think I'm going to have to rearrange my camera, or I'm going to learn how to. That must be Karen. Your daughter came out again for the horses, and it's hot, and it's hot here too. As many of you know, I do not have air conditioning in my craft room. The rest of the house is air conditioned, but I do not have it in here because I want to keep my door closed. So it is closed off to the rest of the house, and I don't have air conditioning in here. So it is a little bit warm. Thank you, Beverly. Yes, I will definitely do the peach pit. I will do it as an extra and just the peach pit because I used blends, I used Stamping Right markers, I used the stamp pad, I used pencils. I used quite a different number of things to create that peach pit, and I will do it separately. I know last week I kept everybody like so much longer, and I don't want to do that again tonight. So try to keep my time down so I don't keep everybody. I know everybody has such busy lives, and trying to, oh, that's not right. Let me just trim this a little bit. It's off just a little bit. Okay, that should be right. Yep. Now I can trim this one once it's down. But like I said, that peach pit, I was in here crafting. It was really quiet. I was having a tough time with trying to get my everything straight, and my cutting was off and my scoring was off. Everything just seemed to not work. So I figured, let me just have a little fun, pretend I ate half a peach. And that's really why that happened. Okay, so this is the Calypso coral is 1.5 inches, and then the petal pink should be 1.25 inches, and it is. And I made it 3 7/8 inches long, just so it will touch the Calypso coral on the base. So we're just going to trim that off a little bit. And this is going to dissect the center of the card. But first I want to add just a little thin, and I think it's about 1/4 inch. It's even less than 1/4 inch. Just to add a little bit of different DSP. And I wanted to make sure that I was using DSP that I could tie into the other card. That's why I used the polka dots. So I'm just going to make sure it's on here even. Let it set a little bit, and then we're just going to trim that off. And again, this piece I am just going to glue onto the front of the card. This card has a lot of dimension to it. I just want to make sure I get this in here just about in the center. Make sure it's even. Because for the little frame, I'm popping that up. And then I'm popping up the elements on the front of the card. So again, this is the scalloped contour dies in the Calypso coral. And I'm just going to pop this up onto the front of the card. Now I made the mistake on this card. I did actually put a dimensional in the center of this frame. I think I have an extra 1M if you want it. And I put a dimensional in the center, and if you can see how it bows? It's not laying flat. So this time I am not adding the dimensional to the center. I'm just going to leave them on the outside so it just lays over top of the center of this card. And we're just going to center this. Make sure it's straight. And I think that looks straight. And then I cut a piece of basic white to fit right inside the stitching on the frame. And as you can see, all I did was stamp Hope your day is as. And let's grab that stamp. I think I have it here. Yes, I do. And I'm using my block that has the lines on it, just to make sure that I have my sentiment on there straight. And I'm just going to grab my memento and stamp up. And I'm just going to stamp this right on the bottom of this card. Okay. It's funny, I'm standing, my camera is right over top, and I stand up to try to look at what I'm doing, and the camera's in my way. Okay, so we'll just put that aside. We're going to grab the glue, and all I'm going to do is glue this right to the frame. Now you want to make sure you spread that glue out a little bit, and so when you do lay your basic white down, the glue doesn't show through. It does have a tendency to do that. Okay, so there is just the front of the card. So let's do some stamping. I'm just going to grab my mat. You know, when you use photopolymer stamps, you should use your mat. And I shouldn't really show you my mat. It is so disgraceful, but I do have a new one. So I'm taking the leaf, excuse me, the branch and the leaves. And this actually, if you can see, it has openings. Let me just stamp it so you can see. And I don't really like the way that looks, so I'll show you how I fixed it. But you can see where the openings are. You can either add the little flowers like I did here, or you can add the little peaches like I did on the box. So looking at this stamp, you really can't see the texture in the leaves. It just came out too dark. That's because my and I do have the paper towel tonight. My stamp pads are really inky. So what I do is I take my bone folder, and if you just scrape your ink to one edge, to the other side, I should say, and then just, clean this off so it doesn't really stain, and then ink it up and stamp. Now, can you see the difference in the leaves? There's a little bit more texture on these. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. So that's what I did to get my leaves looking a little nicer. And then after stamping, we're just going to die cut it with this die cut, making sure that everything is lined up. And I actually did already die cut one out, so I don't have to spend time doing that. And then the same thing with the flowers. I did the flowers on this card. Let me just get rid of that stamp set a second. In the Calypso Coral. And then I did the other one in the Pale Papaya. And that stamp actually comes with all three flowers together. And I'll just show you how it stamps. And this is going to be the same. All my stamp sets are so inky. that it blots. See how it's so blotchy? So for each of my stamp pad, I had to do that. But again, I did cut out the flowers. The dye to the flowers, actually, you'll notice that it is all together. So you do cut out all 3 flowers at the same time, but then the flowers are die cut separate. And as you can see, I'm just going to trim this flower a little bit. I was off on my die cutting and everything this morning. So it was not a good day. It was just one of those days. Okay, so let me just grab the rest of my flowers. And I think I did them this afternoon in pale pink and the papaya. And I did a few of them. Okay, so we have our flowers. I'm going to put those aside so they don't disappear like my leaf just did. Oh, here it is. I'm going to put them over here. And then we're going to work on the peach. Now I grabbed some daubers. I actually have 2 of them. And my peach stamp. Let me just clean this off really quick so I can show you and you can see how I created this peach. Not too much better, right? Let's grab some spray. We're going to spray this up a little bit. Thanks, Karen. Hey, Kathy. Hot Minnesota. It's hot here, too. I'm sweating. Okay, so let's turn this over so you can see. So here is the peach stamp. Now, I actually, for this, used Cajun Craze, Mango Melody, and Pale Papaya. We're not going to use those. And I started with the Cajun Craze. Now, you have to remember, whatever side you want the darkest, you're going to do it on the opposite, because when you stamp it, that's where it's going to be the darkest. And I just took a dauber, inked it up, and added my color to the edge of the stamp. Just getting some color on there, okay? So that was the Cajun Craze. Then I grabbed the Pale Papaya because it is the lightest. And you'll, oh, it's not there. But again, I'm just using the corners. And it did turn a little white because this dauber was used with white. And I'm just going to do the center of this peach, going over the edge of that Cajun Craze just a little bit so it blends out a little bit. Okay, just like that. And then we're going to grab the Mango Medley. And I'm still on camera, right? And we're going to do the same thing. Just add some ink to the dauber. And then we're going to fill in and add color to this side. Just like that. Overlapping just a little bit. And then let's go back to the Pale Papaya. And we're just going to go over that edge of the Mango Medley. Just like that. Now these are distinctive, so you will get the lines and the dark and the light. So when you stamp this peach, give it a good stamp. You'll have all your different colors And it does leave it blank in some areas. That's the stamp. It's not that I missed any spots. It's the way the stamp is created. So that's how you create the peach. And this has its own little die. And I actually did cut one out right here. And then it also comes with a cute little stem with 2 leaves. So let's put those aside, move our peach out of the way, make some space on the table, and pull our card back out. So we're going to grab our leaves, and I'm actually going to pop this up onto the front of the card. Now I know I had a few people ask me about the ribbons. I will show you how I tie a ribbon. I learned from my upline, Julie. You're in Iowa? Oh, is that where you live, Karen, in Iowa? Yes, you do. That's right. I'm trying to think about where I've mailed your things to. And yes, I remember Iowa. Okay, so I just put this so the top of the stem would be just about in the corner. And I'm going to just add a little bit of glue to the bottom of this stem. Whoops. And the bottom of the leaf, because the bottom of the leaf is going to catch the top of this peach. So we're just going to add that on just like that. We'll give it a couple minutes to dry. And let's grab our flowers. And I am going to mix and match my flowers. Let's see, do I have them all here? Yep. Let's grab some dimensionals, because I know I did put some up on dimensionals. And it's so hot, warm in here that even my glue dots are melting. Oh, okay, that one didn't work. So let's just grab a glue dot. I'm going to take one of I believe this is the pale pink, or petal pink, I should say. And we're going to add this one right up here. And we're going to take the same color one, and we're going to pop this one up also. These little dimensionals are so tiny. And we're just going to add that right here. I'm going to take one of the pink ones. This one I'm just going to add a dab of glue, tuck it under, and then we're just going to add one more. Let's add this one. And we're going to actually put this one up on dimensionals also. And I have a dimensional right here. Okay. And we're just going to squeeze that right in the center. I use the champagne rhinestones. And we're just going to add these little rhinestones right to the center of the flowers. I usually like to put an odd number of gems, but where I did add 4 flowers, we can't leave any of them out. So we'll just add those to the flowers. And then we're going to grab that peach now that it's all finished. And we're going to pop that up right on the front of the card. Now for the front of this card, it looks like, well, I'll have to move it over just a hair so we can see that pretty little gem. There we go. And then we just need to tie a ribbon. So I grabbed the pale papaya, and this is the open weave, the new ribbon we have. And I got asked a few times about making the ribbons. Yes, I do have a fan behind me. Thank you, Karen. I do have a fan behind me. I don't really mind the heat that much, but it's just that it gets so warm. So when you make a ribbon, tie a bow, I should say, you're going to put your tail out and hold it between your pointer and your thumb. Grab your tail. You're going to go around your middle finger and come back up. And when you come around, you're just going to lift that thumb and hold those pieces down. Now, I don't want you to lift your thumb anymore. Grab your tail, go between your fingers, take the end of the ribbon and feed it back in through your fingers and underneath this piece right here. So you're going to go up and around and through. Make sure it's laying the right direction and pull it through. So you just want to make sure that all your ribbon is facing the right direction when it gets pulled through. So everything's nice and flat. Okay? Now that your tail is back around, I should move up. This little loop that you just created, you're going to take that tail and feed it just through that loop. So you're going to go over and through the loop, just like that, and then you're going to pull. And you're going to make sure you pull so it's nice and tight, because it'll make your little loops nice and puffy. And just remove it from your fingers. Sometimes I do them so tight that I have a hard time getting them off. But then you have a nice perfect ribbon. I'm just going to grab a glue dot and I'll pick it up with my scissor. See, they're melted. And I'm just going to add it right up here on the top of the stem. I'm going to add my ribbon, and then I'm going to just trim my tails. Just like that on both sides. And then there's the front of your card. Now for the inside, we said, hope your day is as sweet as a peach. And I did that in the Calypso Coral. And I have that right here. Let's move off this sentiment and grab the new one. And I'm going to stamp this first. And I'm just going to stamp it right here on the bottom. So we're going to ink up. Make sure it's on here straight. And there we go. Put that ink away. Now, like I said, I had grabbed the scallop from the contour dies. And that's going to go on here. And I left it longer so I could make sure that I get the scallop correct. But let's add a little bit of the polka dots so we can tie it to the front of the card. I did the scallops because the scallops on the frame, and then again pulled in the polka dots so I could use the polka dots on my next card. So I'm just going to run a bead of glue across the top. Make sure I have glue at the ends. And we're just going to lay this down so a little bit of the pink pops up through the top. Okay. And then we're going to glue this to the front of the card. And again, I just want to add enough glue so if I have to move it, I can move it. But we're going to put this right up against the top of the card. And I just want to make sure that the scallop is pretty even on both sides. And that looks about right. And to make sure it is on the top of the card, I can just push it down. And this way, the edge of the card is nice and straight. Give that a second. And then we can grab the little cutter. Like you were saying, Em, I really hope these come back too. These are just so convenient. So I'm just making sure that it's at the edge of the blade and giving it a quick cut. Then I know the edges where we just added that scallop are nice and straight. So now all we're going to do is add some glue. Add it to a layer of Calypso Coral. And like I said, I will have this PDF in the group tomorrow with all the measurements. And then we're just going to add this to the inside of the card. I'm going to put it upside down so I can see that I'm putting it on straight. It always looks like I'm doing it backwards, but I like to look at the line with the edge of the card and get it in there as straight as I can. Oh, one of the flowers came off. Let's just add a little glue to there. Okay. So there's card number 1. I hope you like that. This was a fun set. I really do like this set. Now for card 2, I used the Ornate Floral 3D embossing folder. I used the Hippo and Friend dies. Now this time I used the polka dots designer series paper. And for the inside, all I did was add happy birthday and some twine. So again, we have our normal card base, 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. And then for this one, I have a layer of Calypso Coral, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And the designer series paper is 5 1/4 by 4. And this is all just adhered down to the front of the card. Nothing popped up until we get to the die, the Hippo and Friends die. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing. I should pull out the seal and do it with seal. So we're just going to line this up. sure it's even. Okay. Now I do have a Calypso coral that is 2 by 5 1/4. And then this one is 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And like I said, I ran it through the Big Shot with the Ornate Floral 3D embossing folder. And this one I definitely have to glue because you don't want to crush the embossing that you just did on the paper. Now when you do run it through, it may change the size a little bit. So you may have to do a little trimming. Okay, so to know where I want to lay this down, what I did is I took my die cut, and I really want this centered in the center of the card, but I also want the tip or the bottom of this die to lay on the petal pink so you really can tell and it stands out. So I'm going to leave this right about down here. So I'll use these polka dots as my guide. And we're going to add some glue to this layer. And this is just going to lay on the designer series paper. So again, you may just have to wiggle a little bit to make sure. I'm just going to hold it up so I have it straight. I'm using the dots as my guide. Okay. And then we're going to pop this up onto the front of the card. I've been using so many dimensionals this past week. So is anything... Oh, I know how to remove it. Yes, I know how to remove it. I just don't know how to make it smaller. Okay. So we're going to pop this up, make sure it's centered. And then I have the one in the basic white. And I'm just going to grab one of my blocks. And all I did was I took some pale papaya and stamped these little flowers onto the background. Now again, like I said, my ink pads are just so inky. So I just randomly added them to this layer. Just to add something to the background. And this one I also popped up. Hey Vicky, how are ya? Hey Case Cards. Hey Ruth, how are you? Hope everybody's doing good. Anybody have rain or just hot sun? I think we're due for a storm, so I'm going to hope that it cools it down a little bit. Okay, so we're going to pop this up into the center. And what I did just to take away some of all that orange without adding gold or popping anything on, I am just going to add, make sure I don't plop out a lot, just going to add a dot of glue on each side. Now there's a die for these teeny tiny little flowers, and I'm just going to add them to each of these little dots of glue. I mean, they are just the teeniest little things. Just to break up that orange in the back. Now let's see, I need one more. I hope I have one. Out of all this stuff, I probably don't have one more little flower. Oh, here it is. Let me get this little guy. Oh, see, I have all these little, let me show you what I'm working out of. That's the wrong size. See, I have all my little pieces in this. Up there it is, right there. Trying to hide. So let's grab this one. We're going to take this one off. And we're just going to add a new glue. Okay. Yeah, so I have all my little pieces. And that little flower got lost. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. And I already did it. I have the leaf that we did before. The only difference is now we're going to do the 3 little peaches. And we're just going to move this out of the way. And the peaches come on one stamp, all 3 together. And I actually did these exactly the same way. But I only used 2 colors for the smaller ones, thinking that they're still not ripe. So, oops, Cajun Craze, and I took the wrong dauber, but I'm going to have to use it. So you're going to just do one edge of each of these little guys. And you can put as little or as much as you want. Just like that. And this time I'm going to jump to the Mango Medley. And we're going to do the same thing, but you're going to cover and go over that red a little bit, or the Cajun Craze, because you want to blend that color out a little bit and add it to each of these little, oops, piece of hair, peaches. And you're going to, when you stamp these, it's the same thing. Some little sections, you're not going to get any ink. It's the stamp itself. It's nothing you're doing wrong. And this, let's see, this die is the same exact way. It's 3 in 1. So you're just going to run it through the Big Shot, and you'll cut 3 out at the same time. Just like these. Okay? This die set also has these teeny tiny little leaves. I have to fix this. See how tiny? So I cut out some of those little leaves so we could add them to the top of these peaches. And I have 3 of them. And before I do anything else, let me just add some glue to the top of these. So these have a few minutes to dry so they don't fall off. They're so teeny. So this one I'm just going to add the glue to the stem. I feel like I have 4 thumbs. Just like that. And then we'll do the same thing to this one. I guess I should use the little pickup tool, make it a little easier. Okay. So we'll let those dry for a second. let's pull in our card. And we're going to grab the leaves, and this time I'm just going to add some glue to each of the little sections. And we're going to lay that down on the front of the card. Make sure it's all sticking. Now the little peach with the 2 leaves, I actually just glued that one down right here. For the other 2, we're going to grab some dimensionals. See if I can get these off. And we're going to add 1 here and 1 here. I can never get the tape off the top. What's been happening is my the glue is actually coming off with the dimensional. When I pull this little tab paper off, I've been having trouble with the ink or the glue coming off with it. Okay, so there's our little peaches on the front of the card. Now on this card, I did take the flowers and put them around. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to add some of the gems, and we're just going to put them around randomly. I do have to add one to the sentiment, so let's just add these. I'm going to use the scissors, it's much easier. And I'm going to add one over here. And then to the front of the card, I had "It's Your Day," and then the happy birthday on the inside. So let me just line this stamp up. See if it's on here straight. Okay, and I used the memento. Now this one I did not cut out, so you're going to have to give me a second to run it through, but I'm just going to stamp the sentiment, and I'm going to grab this little banner from the peaches. Just give me a second, let me run this through. Huh. Crazy. All right, so there's that little piece. I ran it through and it wasn't right. Okay, so what I did was trim this just a little, and I'm just going to trim it the same way that edge is, just like that. And grab a horrible pair of scissors. I'm just going to cut a small piece of the dimensionals off the edge. Oops. And I'm going to put this on the back, making sure I end up catching at least part of the bottom of this frame, because I would also want to add a dimensional to the end. These are just small enough that if you put them, it's just the right size so it won't show on the other side. See, the glue came off. There we go. Pull the paper and the glue comes off. And we're just going to stick this right here. And like I said, I just want to make sure it catches just like that. And we're just going to take another little gem and add it. Now this card I didn't add a ribbon to, but I did add one to this, but it fell off. So we're going to jump to the inside. We have the Calypso Coral, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, basic white, 5 1/4 by 4. I'm going to just take out this yucky pad. And I'm going to stamp the happy birthday. Right here at the bottom. I'm just going to put it up a little enough that when I do put the twine, it has enough room to lay. Let's close this up. I think we're done with that now. And then we're going to layer these together. Get that piece of glue off there so it doesn't show through. And then layer this down. Now the twine, I'm not sure, this may be old twine, and it's just thin enough that, look at that, let me grab that eraser. There we go. It's just thin enough to first tie it in a bow, in a knot, before you tie it in a bow. So we're just going to get this down to the bottom of the card, and I am going to tie it in a knot first, just to make sure it's on there good and I don't have a lot of play in it. If I did, I could fix it, but this is an easier way to do it. And we're just going to tie a bow. Now, after you tie your bow, and I have glue on my hands, to make sure everything lays flat, you want to untwist your little loops and pull your tails down, just like that. Once your little loops are undone, if you put your finger on top of the knot and pull, it will keep everything straight. Oh, I'm going to do this one a little bit more. It'll keep everything straight, and it will allow that little bow to stay down and be just the way you want it to be. So it's not all twisted. And then we're just going to layer some glue, and I like to put it on both sides of the twine to make sure it adheres really well. And then we're just going to add this to the inside of the card. Hey Ruth. Yeah, you just got a 10-minute storm. Oh, did it help a bit? Thank goodness, because we're supposed to be in a flash flood watch right now. We don't have rain yet, but they're talking about it. Okay, so there is card number 2. And I hope you like that one too. I just had so much fun with these peaches. Now, like I mentioned before, if you do place a $35 order, I will include the make and takes, and I will include the jar. And layers for the jar. Unfortunately, right now the jars are not available, but as soon as they come in, I will get them out to you. So this will be included with the make and takes. So let's make this little box. And it's 8 o'clock. See, running late again. Okay, so we have our piece, and it is 5 by 10, and this is a quick and easy box. It's scored at, we'll do it this way, 2 1/4, 4 1/2, 6 3/4, and 9. And then I turned it and scored it at 2 1/4. So we're just going to fold and burnish all our score lines. And like I said, this is a really quick and easy box. And there's that piece of glue again. Okay, so what we want to do is these little flaps on the bottom, excuse me, are going to be the bottom of the box. So when we put this together, here's our seam. So when we turn it, this is going to be the front of the box. So this is the tab that I want to make sure that when I cut it, this is going to be the flap that attaches last. This is going to be the last flap of the box. So I'm actually going to add little tabs to these flaps, and I'm also going to just cut it a bit shorter. This one too, I'm going to cut it up on the score line, create a little tab, just like that, and trim off another piece. We'll go to this one, this little rectangle right here, we do not need, so I'm just going to trim it off at an angle, and then I'm going to tab this or cut this tab on an angle, and this one too, because I want to make sure I get that score line completely out. And then we're just going to trim that off also. Now before we put this box together, and I probably should have done this beforehand and I didn't, so I will apologize beforehand. I'm just going to glue all my little layers. Now these little layers are going to be for the side of the box, and if I'm not mistaken, they're 2 5/8 by 2 1/8, and then 2 by 2 1/2, and I did do 4 of them. So we're just going to glue all these sections. We'll give them a couple minutes to dry. Thank you, Karen. Thanks, Kathy. I wasn't sure what colors to use. Like I said, I didn't realize that there was blue. I would have done blue, but the Calypso Coral and the Petal Pink really go well together because I'm not that crazy about the Petal Pink. I like the Blushing Bride, but these two colors really do go well together. So these are going to be the sides of the boxes. And then for the top of the box, we have 2 1/8 by 2 1/8, and then we have 2 by 2. And again, I am just layering I'm going to just layer this on the top of the box. but we're going to put this aside until we're ready for it. Okay, so we're going to bring in the box, and before I create the box, it's much easier to put the sides on. This way, when you layer these on, now that the first one is on, it's a little bit crooked, you can use that as your guide to put the other layers. I like to make sure that when I put them on, the lines are straight, because we're going to see those when the top of the box is on. So using it as a guide, I can just layer these down on each panel, making sure it's straight. And then we can add that last panel. Okay, while that's drying, let's grab the cap. Now, like I said, here is the front, and then here is the tab that we're going to tuck in. This is how we're going to create our box. So I'm just going to add some tearing tape, and I use the cap of my glue as my straight edge. And I'm just going to put 2 layers to make sure it closes really nicely. And then I'm going to turn it around, and again, this is the tab that's going to go in last. So this is the one that's going to hold everything together. So I'm just going to add tearing tape to the top, tearing tape to the bottom, and now we can create our box. Oh, here it is. I was wondering where this little pokey thing was. I wish they'd bring this little pokey tool back. I like the other tool, but I really do love this one. This is my favorite. If I ever lose it or anything happens to it, I don't know what I'll do. Okay, so now we can just fold this down, take our other flap and fold it down, and it should be nice and even. And then there is the box. So let's close in the sides, close in the back, take off the paper, and then we can close in the front flap. Make sure the box is squared and close it up. Now I just like to take my bone folder and go on the inside and just make sure that it's down really well. Okay, and then our little jar will fit right inside. We'll go to the lid. This is 3.5 by 3.5, and I scored it at 5/8 of an inch. But when I did score it at the 5/8, say this is the edge of the scoreboard, instead of putting it right up against the edge, I moved it out just a hair, not even 1/8 of an inch, and then scored it at 5/8 of an inch, because I wanted to make sure that it would cover me adding the sides. And I did the 5/8. I did it the same way on each side of the lid. And again, it's just a nice, quick and easy lid. And when I do my tabs, I like to make sure I cut that score line out. Let's get that little piece out of there. and angle them. And then when I go to the next one, I do it on this side. It's just a little different. This way it doesn't get confusing about what you're supposed to cut out. So when I turn it, then I do it on this side. And then when you have to add this to the top of your box, all the thickness is distributed on each side of the box top. So you don't have to worry about it not fitting. Okay? That's really the reason I do it, just in case you're off by your measurement a little bit, or you scored it off a little bit. This will make sure that all the thickness is distributed equally on each side. So I'm just going to actually glue these instead of adding tear and tape. And I'll give it a minute for it to set. Now, if I wanted, you could let this glue set and then add some to the inside like this and just let that dry for a little bit. Not completely, just enough that it's tacky. It'll work the same way as using tear and tape, believe it or not. So it'll just, I have to trim that off a little bit. But it does, it holds and adheres just like tear and tape. And we're just closing each of these sides up. And I probably measured this side just a little wrong. So let me just trim this off a bit. Okay, so you see, my fingers are just, it really did stick really well. And it'll just fit right on the top of the box. And you have, like I said, one tab. Whoops. One tab at each corner. I must have, oh no, there it goes. I was going to say I must have scored it wrong. Okay, so we're going to add this to the top of the box. And all I did was use the glue. And again, thank goodness, I cut out my peaches. I did another leaf. And then I cut out a tag from the tailor-made tag dies, which are awesome. They make life so easy. It even has these little grommet pieces. So I'm just going to add a little glue around the outside edge here. Just like that. Get my pokey tool. And we're just going to add that to the top, just like that. And I am going to add my sentiment. And I'll get you out of here as quick as I can. And I actually, I did do it in the coral, Calypso coral. And it's Have a Peachy Day. And all I'm doing is adding the sentiment right to the bottom of the tag. I wanted to make it a little, pretty simple. And I'm going to grab a dimensional, and I am just going to add a couple dimensionals. Hopefully I didn't put them on crooked. Oh, that's good. Okay, so we're just going to add that tag to the top. And then we're going to pop up these leaves. Now we have to remember that some of this is going to be off. So I'm only going to add 2 dimensionals. And for these little peaches, look at that, I did it again. For these little peaches, I am just going to attach them right to this branch. So I'm just going to add this like this. Whoops, I'm off. Just like that. And then glue the peaches in place. I'm going to add the glue right to the branch. I could use dimensionals, but I just wanted to glue these in place. If you wanted, you'd be able to tuck it right under there and attach it, but I'm going to make it simple and just attach it to the branch just like that. And we're going to add another length of ribbon that I don't know what happened to that little ribbon on the other one. It's around here somewhere. I honestly just took it from my where I take my photos right here to the desk, and it fell off. I'm wondering if the cat got it. Okay, so there we go. There's our bow. Just going to make sure that's nice and tight. Give my fingers some space so I can actually get it off. Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, I thought the tag was cute. Just something different. Okay, so let's just grab a glue dot. And again, we're just going to add that ribbon. Cut these little tails. And then, look, see, my bow is in here. Ah, here it is. So let's get that bow on there. There we go. So here's tonight's projects. Make some room here, so clean up the mess. And our cards. And there you go. So like I said, if you want these make and takes, I will include the jar. It's just back ordered right now. So you'd need to spend $35. Plus, tonight's the last night to register for the calendar craft box. Thank you, Kay. Thanks, Elizabeth. So I hope everybody had a great night. And I hope it cools off for everybody. And like I said, keep an eye out. I will jump on really quick to show you how I made this peach with that peach pit in the center. I just thought it was fun. Yeah, good going, Vicky. They're easy. You just need to practice. I still don't have it right. So you practice, practice, practice. So thanks for joining me. I hope everybody had a great time. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Thanks, Margaret. Have a great night, honey. I'll talk to everybody soon. Bye-bye.